Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
All right. Hello, this is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. I'm very pleased to have Esther Howard with me here this evening. It is evening, sorry. It's October 2024. The heat has finally broken here in Phoenix, so we're all in good spirits again. Mental health advocate, researcher, business strategist. Esther is the founder of Bezel. Did I say that right?
Yep.
All right. A digital mental health and research company. She provides deep global research process and logistics expertise, along with finance and regulatory knowledge. She successfully led the development of a series of oncology drugs from lab to registration. She's writing a book called The Other Side of Fear, her personal story of childhood trauma and escaping a cult. Oh my. And she is determined to help as many people as possible build resilience and thrive in the face of their own and collective trauma. Welcome to the show, Esther.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's an interesting mix of things there. So how about you start by giving me a snapshot of sort of your companies or efforts where you're at right now?
Yeah, starting with the company, sure. So Bezel is a digital mental health company, and we provide toolboxes of support to any community that needs them, and any organization that wants to support their people. And what we do different than I think most mental health companies is that we curate what that toolbox is so that people can get the support that they need. Everybody needs something different. You and I could have the exact same story in life and be dealing with the same mental health issues. But ultimately, being human, we're also complex and individual, different personalities, and there's different things that are going to work for me that are maybe not going to work for you, and vice versa. So we make sure we provide people options, and we make sure that they get what works for them so that we can help the most people in the world possible.
Okay. So I get, yeah. So you said that makes you guys unique, where you're a little more tailored. You're often more, you said, curated options for clients.
Yeah. So other mental health companies, most of them provide access to therapy, and that's what they focus on, which is great. Therapy is absolutely needed. But unfortunately, therapy only reaches a small percentage of the population, depending on the country that you're looking at. And it also isn't the tool that works best for a lot of people. And there's other things that work for other people, and things like mindfulness and meditation, and even education, and just learning more about yourself and learning how to help each other, and learning the things that we can do to support the mental health of our friends and loved ones. So we've expanded our toolbox of support to be much more diverse. And then we also partner with a lot of organizations that provide the tools. And so because of that, we're working constantly on finding the most cutting edge, the most innovative, the newest tools that there are in the world, so that people are always having access to the latest and greatest.
Okay. So, and you want to give us a background to how that started now? That seems like an obvious question.
Yes, I would love to. So my professional background is clinical research. So I worked in operations and logistics and regulatory, digital health, all of the above in oncology research for about 20 years.
Okay.
During that time, I would help biotech companies that had good ideas. They would come out of the lab, and they would need support, operational and regulatory support on what should their regulatory pathway be, and how do you collect the best data to make the best decision, and hopefully have a drug or a therapy that is going to help cancer patients and become commercialized one day. So several of those, and most of them actually fail, which is a good thing. We're always looking. That's how innovation works. But for the ones that the data worked, and that the efficacy and the safety were there, so that patients were improving, they made it to market, and I was along with them for that pathway. So I worked with small biotech companies, and also with pharma big pharma companies on the commercial side. Once it reaches commercial, that's where I walk away.
Okay.
That somebody else, other people commercialize it, but I was always in the drug development pathway, supporting that development.
Okay. Is there a class of drug or two that you can proudly say you helped move along?
Yeah, the biggest one is that I ever helped with was a prostate cancer drug, and it was J&J's Erleada,
Okay.
and it's one of their top oncology drugs right now. So I'm very
Okay.
happy to have
Excellent.
been part of that one.
Excellent. As a male, I say thank you.
You're very welcome. I hope you
Okay.
never need it.
Yes, yes, me too. It's nice to
Yeah.
know that those options are there for sure.
Yeah, it is good. The innovation is always coming along. In fact, just yesterday, I was talking to a colleague, and he was telling me how their company is really progressing along with some drugs for multiple myeloma and other hematology cancers. So it's an exciting space if you live in it.
Right.
And even though I'm not directly involved in it anymore, all my colleagues and friends and everybody still is. So I get to hear all the good things that are coming down the pipeline for cancer. So that's my professional life for the last
Okay.
quite a few years. But before I tell you why I started Bezel, I'll tell you that my personal life. So my personal life was in my younger years, when I was about 13 years old.
Okay. So before your professional career. Okay.
Yeah, I was 13, so much before my professional career. My parents, my family, we ended up in a cult, very separated from the world and from society. And I was in that cult for quite a few years. I was in my 20s when I
Throughout all the teen formative years.
all the teen formative years
Wow.
and it's interesting because when I tell people the story, I let them know the reality of it. So I didn't know music, I didn't know movies, I didn't know pop culture. Like when I got out of it in my mid-20s, I had a lot to learn, not just the mental health aspect of deprogramming and trying to figure out how to become successful in the world, but also in conversation with people, you're trying to figure out what they're even talking about when they're referring to,
Sure.
just general culture. So
Sure. It reminds me a little bit of kind of the storyline of Captain America, right? And
I would love the idea of being compared to Captain America. So I'm going to start weaving that into the story from now on. Maybe I'll even add it
right?
to.
Yeah, please, please. It's a great
Yeah.
one. Because we've become very much a reference culture,
Yeah,
right? And there's a
absolutely.
great line in the movie when they talk about flying monkeys. He's like, "Oh, I got that reference, right? You're the Wizard of Oz." But for the most part, I imagine it's bittersweet because I'm sure there's things that like what you do now, it plays to your strengths of being able to communicate with people more directly and make eye contact and things that maybe people nowadays struggle with because of too much media.
Yeah, I mean, possibly. I'd actually, I don't know what I missed, but there wasn't a lot. I mean, that was in the 80s, so I'm 51 now. So 13 wasn't yesterday.
Sure.
We didn't have social media or the
Yeah,
internet.
yeah, movies, just movies though. I was a child. I read a lot now, but I mean, I was a child of the movies, right? I didn't read as
Yeah.
much as other generations did. I was glued to the screen,
Hmm.
MTV and all that.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. There's definitely. I think we're in a culture now where children are a little bit more glued to screens
Oh, for sure.
than in the
But
80s and 90s.
okay.
Yeah, but
Yes.
in any case, so I escaped from this cult, but it was
Can I ask geographically where it was?
I would rather leave those
Oh,
details
okay.
out just
Okay.
because there's still like
Is it
it's
fair to say it was more rural?
it was
Okay.
definitely rural.
Okay. We weren't like in some like warehouse in some inner city for,
Yeah, no, no,
with
no. It was definitely rural. It was on a mountain.
okay.
And yeah.
Okay.
So, and there was elements of it where we were not 100% isolated. There was still like some contact with external society and some things like that. So, but what it was because it was a cult, it was still very controlling. A lot of
Sure.
mind control and fear and brainwashing and the trauma that I had to overcome when I left included things like what if I'm wrong? What if I'm now going to hell because I'm not?
Oh, sure.
And or the nightmares from the memories, even today, even
Wow.
like right now, they still affect me greatly. Sometimes I'll go through clusters of them, and it's
Hmm.
exhausting, it's debilitating, in fact.
Okay.
And then there's the other element of human connection and trust. And so just being able to not, even though I became very successful in
Sure.
my career, in my personal life, I still had struggles with relationships and kind of navigating like how to date and, like how to choose a good guy and then not be afraid of men for any, it just, there's so many elements of it.
I'm
And the
sure.
problem was that I did seek help when I got out, because I physically got out with a backpack on my back, like middle of the night escape.
Oh, wow.
This I
Okay.
write about in my book. And when I got out, I had to figure out how to live in a world that I didn't really know very well. But I also had to find a way to mentally cope with this new life. And I sought help through psychiatrists and therapists and the clinical community. And I didn't get any help through that community. It was very disappointing.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
looking back, I think that I gave up too quickly. I think that if I had have realized that some people are just not like a good fit for
Oh,
you,
sure. Okay.
is the case. Now that I know the world better, now that I know the clinical community and mental health better, I realize that every therapist isn't good for every case.
Sure. Sure.
But I
And you
just,
had a very unique one.
yes,
Oh, you're afraid of
because
water? No.
yeah, it was a little more unique. And
Right.
and so I abandoned therapy pretty fast and then struggled through life myself. But what really helped me was the peer support network that I created
Okay.
for myself. But I still never talked about my mental health struggles. And it wasn't until about 5 years ago that I did. And that's when I started the company. And what happened
Bec-
5 years ago was one of my best friends died of colon cancer. She was young, she was in her 40s. She had a 2-year-old daughter. And
Yikes.
she told me a couple weeks before she died, we were sitting on the couch together. And she told me that everyone sees her as a cancer patient, but it's actually her mental health that she's struggling with. And it was the first time in my life that that conversation was a normal one. It was like, well, yeah, of course you're struggling with mental health. I didn't think about it on my own, but when she said it, it completely resonated.
Right.
And
Right.
then what she said next became the catalyst of why I started Bezel. She said, the thing that would help me the most is if I had an easier way to let my friends and family know what I need in my life. And on the flip side, I wish my friends and family knew how to help me better.
Right.
And so in my head, I have an entrepreneurial brain naturally. And I listened to that and I was like, wow, there's a problem that needs to be solved. And I don't see anyone doing it. We need to simplify communication. So people need something to make communication easier for them so that they can privately and or publicly let people know what they need in their struggles of life, whatever that happens to be. So if you're a cancer patient, maybe you're just lonely and you need to chat, or maybe you need a ride to a doctor's office or childcare, or you're feeling good and you want to visit with people, or you're feeling bad and you want someone to come and read to your daughter. Like those are the things that can compound on themselves and really affect a person's stress and mental health conditions, especially with cancer or other
Right.
diseases. And so I was doing really well at work, but I literally quit my job, cashed out all my stock, used
Okay.
that money, started my company, and got a
That was took a lot of courage.
yeah,
That's a
but
lot
it
of
came from
risk.
nothing. So being back to nothing didn't scare me.
Okay. Okay. Another sort of hidden strength there.
Yeah, it was like, to me, I believed in what I was doing enough to know that this was going to work, and it didn't really cross my mind that I was losing my money. I saw it as an investment
Right.
in the idea that I could
Excellent.
very clearly see, and then other people did as well, and I got some angel investors, and then developed out the product, and we tested it with a small group of military veterans. And then we tested it with cancer patients, of course, and then we expanded from there. And it's kind of just grown into multiple silos of communities that we now
Okay.
support.
Excellent. Excellent. That's got to be incredibly rewarding to be able to make an impact and start helping more and more people.
Yeah, it's very rewarding.
So I need to ask you about when you decided to write the book and how much it sounds like some of it you don't want to disclose. So it'll be, is it like super factual? Is it like is it a mix sort of
No,
hybrid?
it's definitely a mix. It's very factual.
Okay.
The
Like
only thing
based on a true story type thing?
No, when
No.
the book is released, all the facts will be released too. The only
Okay.
reason right now I don't talk about like names and locations and things is because my two sisters are still with them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I don't want to hurt my family, even though I'm hurt by them. It's my mom lives in the north. She's no longer in it anymore. And same with my dad. He's also no longer in it. And my brother is also has his life in Texas, and he's not in it anymore. It's just our two sisters. But there's a
Okay.
lot of ripple effect, and people can figure it out. Like the people that know me can Google me and eventually
Okay.
out who they
Okay.
are and where it all happened. But and I'll include all those details in the book for sure.
But
But the main reason for the book, like for sure those details will be in there. But the main reason for the book is to help inspire other people who have
sure.
been through very traumatic and scary events and see how much power you have when you get to the other side of fear. And
Right.
every day there's fear in our lives. We just choose whether or not to confront it.
Right.
And sometimes we have a more higher ability to confront fear than other incidents. But in general, the more that we put ourselves in the face of fear and confront fear, even if it's small things, the stronger we become. Even if you're afraid of public speaking, or if you're afraid of going into a room of strangers, or if you're
Sure.
starting a company, or I mean, you changed your completely changed your career from the
Right.
science
Big
world
pivot.
to the business
Yep.
world.
Yep.
That's no little thing. There had to have been elements of fear involved that you had to overcome.
Sure. Sure. Yep.
So that's what the purpose of the book is for. It's for
Okay.
people to
So,
understand.
so you've had, what would you say is the biggest challenge you've had to sort of overcome? Because you've had a few, and as you said, starting a company, that was easy, right? Or leaving the safety of my job was easy, so that's really hard for some people. What
Yes,
would you say
that's
is
true.
your biggest challenge?
I think that the biggest challenge is inward. The biggest challenge is the struggle in my own brain on like what is right and wrong, and um what do I believe and what do I not believe? Where's my spirituality? Where are the things that, I absolutely like know are true and not, because the brainwashing that you go through when you go into get caught in and up into a religious cult is something that is not, you don't deprogram the day you leave.
Sure.
It's a journey. And it's been over 20 years now, and there are still big elements of it that really get me. And so when my mind is not occupied, like when I'm not thinking about my
Mhm.
company or doing something adventurous with a lot of stimulation, like I'm an adventure seeker.
Okay.
I used to skydive and I ride motorcycles, and I'm always doing things that are a little bit what other people consider on the edge. When I'm not doing those things, that's when I feel the demons creeping up in my
Okay.
brain to
Okay.
like torment me.
So you reminded me of some of the work by Stephen Cutler. Are you familiar with his books?
Yeah, I know Stephen
Okay.
Cutler.
Okay. So the idea of, well, it's not just the dopamine seeking stuff, but just the ability to like, right, with using psychedelics and things to turn yourself off, right? And to go deeper into some things, which can be incredibly therapeutic for some types of trauma and some people. Is that a tool? I know all the microdosing is popular amongst Silicon Valley execs and all sorts of people nowadays, all sorts of athletes. It's
Yeah, it's definitely a tool. It's not one that I would try at this moment in my life. I have too much fear to try it.
Okay.
But the reasons for my fear are probably legitimate. One of the reasons that this cult was started is because the leader of the cult was under the influence of psychedelics or like some type
Okay.
of drug when he started it. And then he went into some sort of trance and then he never left it. And I also like even when I take simple medications like antihistamines and things like that, I don't like what they do to my dreams and
Where?
my brain and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't think psychedelics would work for me, but I've had several people in the industry. I'm actually really good
Right.
friends with a lot of psychedelic researchers,
Okay.
and they have told me that there are some that even though that's my fear, like I could probably
Yes.
try it. So I'm curious.
Right.
I'm curious.
Right. The risk rewards is there. There's
Yeah.
enough benefit there for, and yeah, that's the whole microdosing too, right? You can dip your toe in the water. You don't have to
Yeah.
go. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's interesting.
But it is a fascinating field, and I believe in it. I think the science is there to show that psychedelics are definitely a really good tool, really good
Sure.
therapeutic, and I think every year they'll get better.
Right.
More research.
Apparently the humanity's been using them for thousands of years throughout different cultures around the globe. So
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
not on accident, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean,
and
speaking of that, my mom is Indigenous, so she's from the North in Canada, and so the
okay,
Indigenous culture, Native Americans, Canadians, um, all of like the earth is what provides you your medicine, and so of course
sure,
that's a huge part of the culture.
right, right, right. Okay, so um, I like to talk investing sometimes, and so it sounds like things are going well for you at Bezel. Is that fair to say? I mean, it sounds like it's growing. Is
Yeah,
you had to sort of cash out to start it and stuff. That was very risky, right? Starting a business, most businesses do not succeed. So it's exciting to hear that that's growing and you're doing well. Looking towards the future, what do you see on the horizon? What are you excited about for Bezel?
I'm excited about the new communities that we can support. So right now we started with supporting cancer patients and military veterans. And this year we started to support employers, the employees in workplaces. And there's so many opportunities. Like our biggest problem with Bezel, especially in our team meetings, is the idea is we could also support these people and these people and these people.
Oh,
There's so
sure.
many. So it's very exciting to sit down and do strategy road mapping in our team because it's always about who can we support next
Okay. Yeah.
and what country can we go into next. And so now, like this morning, I had a meeting with some people in Canada, and we'll be able to expand into Canada. And we've already deployed the minimal product of our app into multiple countries. In fact, on paper, 38 countries have tried our app in some way or shape or form.
Excellent.
And including Ukraine, because our developers are based in Ukraine and we even translate
Okay.
it into Ukrainian for them. So we have a few hundred Ukrainians using it there. And so
Excellent.
we have like a nice trajectory. Israel, we're translating it into Hebrew now for our Israeli friends.
Okay.
And yeah, so I think that the exciting part is the expansion, but the second exciting part is the technology. So the advancements in AI and machine
Mhm.
learning and like all that you can do with technology. I know there's a lot of discussion about all the bad that can come out of
Oh,
AI, but this is
yeah.
a really good example of the good because
Hmm.
we have over 150 tools that are in our toolbox that we could deploy to each community. Obviously, that would be foolish. We don't deploy 150 tools for every community. With the AI algorithms that we're writing and the machine learning from the data we're collecting, we're able to very precisely provide the right tools to the right people at the right time. So people are getting help faster because of this.
Okay.
So I love
Okay.
technology.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, like some sort of expedited classification for the tools and pairing for
Yep.
the right need. Uh, Speaking of AI and therapy, I've I don't remember what it was called, but there was this AI therapist, which is apparently very effective right now, that people will talk to instead of a person, right?
Mhm.
They're a little more comfortable, and they don't want to tell us, well, I did this or something to somebody, but they're more likely to talk to the AI or share something that they're uncomfortable with, but also that it can read their gestures incredibly well, right? And their tone and the word choice and all this stuff. And it was surprising what I remember reading about it. So is that something you might be able to implement with your
Yeah, we
toolkit?
already have a couple companies that are on the clinical validation roadmap for us to implement them into our toolbox. If we would have had this conversation a year ago, I would have said baloney. Like I knew those AI bots were all coming out, and I was a huge naysayer of anything that replaces a human
Okay,
connection. I think technology should be used to enhance communication and
sure.
connection with humans. And I'm wrong. There are people that actually really like talking to those bots. And the best case scenario for them is in the middle of the night when no one's available and you're lonely
Right.
and you need to chat.
Yep.
That is fantastic because not only is it a tool that they can use in the middle of the night and have conversation with, but then they can get connected to a human soon and
Right.
directly after, maybe the next day. Um, but
Right.
um, but it's
On
fast.
demand. Yeah,
Research
that's
that's
nice.
coming
Good
out proves
point.
me wrong, and I love being proved wrong.
Oh,
I love
right. That's how we
it.
learn. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, I didn't thought about the on-demand thing because when people need help, sometimes they need it now, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And I was surprised. What I was a naysayer of was all the subtle subconscious cues that we pick up on each other. Apparently, this can do it as or better than us, which freaked me out.
Yes. So the intelligence community has been using technology for years on reading people so that it can not just, I mean, the old-fashioned lie detector, ignore that. Like that's in the trash now. But
Right?
now
Tone, volume, all sorts of
yeah, I
voice,
mean, even
all
just in a
sorts of stuff.
Zoom call like this, you could have it turned on and we'd be able to like see little things. I don't have it turned on for you, but there is technology now where you can have this conversation. And can you imagine being able to have therapy session with a therapist who is going to be subjective to what they think of what you're telling them, but
Right.
now this is a tool where it can
Yeah.
provide a significant layer of objectivity to their
Yes.
interpretation of what you're saying.
For sure.
I love it. It's one of my
Yep.
favorite.
Something they might have missed. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Very cool. So that's nice. Yeah. I mean, because yeah, you're right. Most of the AI talk is well, a lot of it is negative. Because there's a Joe Rogan podcast I was listening to a while back that it was an AI expert, and how he was excited. He's working with the government now to help police some of it, right? Because all the countries are just nobody wants to be last, so they're all just racing towards not the the sort of iterative AI that we're talking that most people are using or whatever, but true AI, and yeah, it's a little scary, right? That's
Yeah. It is.
uh,
It's scary. AI for good, though, is a big term that's now used in the tech world.
okay,
And in fact, I'm on this WhatsApp group called AI for Good, and we are always talking about responsible AI and how to use it properly. So we just need to keep the good better than the bad and use the good to defeat the bad. It's the
right.
goes back to the Marvel movies, good versus evil.
Right? I was thinking the Matrix,
The
right? There were the
Matrix.
good programs and the bad programs.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. It is a matrix.
Right. Right. So back to Phoenix real quick. So you're based here, but you're global.
Mhm.
Would you say your team is global as well?
Yes, yes. We
Okay.
have people around the United States and then also in Ukraine. I'm just hiring some people in Israel and probably also in Canada
Okay.
as we expand. Mhm.
Canada. I love it. Okay. So okay. Uh you do you have like a brick and mortar sort of center here in Phoenix at all?
Nope,
No?
I just work out of my
Okay.
house.
Okay. The power of digital
Yeah,
services.
we all do. We don't have a brick and mortar. We don't have an office yet. I mean, at some point, I mean, we're small. We're still a startup company, and
Okay.
we're 6 people in total with
Okay.
plus our developers in Ukraine, and so we don't need an office right now. But someday,
Right.
you never know. You might have an office.
What? Yeah, I'm not sure why you would, right?
Yeah, it all depends. It depends on what we end up, how we end up doing things. Like for example, a lot of businesses need an office if they have their development team in-house because developers really should all sit together or sit or
Okay.
at least be geographically close. Because the best work comes when you're together in situations
Okay.
like that regularly. So if we ever brought development in-house, then we would probably look at an office, but
Okay.
you never know. Maybe we'll never.
Okay.
Big one.
Okay. So, another question I like to ask people is reflecting on your journey, what do you wish you knew sooner about building wealth and success in your
Oh,
career?
wow. It's such a good question. About building wealth and success. So I wish I understood. So I'm really good at economics, but I wish I was better at understanding the financial markets and how money works in the world.
Sure.
And
Doesn't everyone? Yes. Yes.
yeah,
It's
there's
you.
so much to learn, as you know. And
Yep.
the more I learn, the more I make better decisions for my business
Rep.
because
100%.
when you're growing a company for sure to help like mental health, you're helping people. And the more
Yep.
people we can help, and the metrics that we can show that we're helping people. But the only way to grow and help more people is to grow financially. So
Right.
we're a profit.
Passion provides the product and service, but it doesn't
Right.
keep it alive. Right.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You have to be profitable. And so there's an exit plan at some point too from a startup company. There's either you're going to go public or you're going to sell.
Mhm.
And so understanding all of the ins and outs of the markets and how companies, what types of companies would acquire a company like ours and what it means to IPO and things like that. I would like to have known that earlier on in the journey because I would have
Sure.
planned better. I've learned that in the last 4 years and I feel really confident now, but it would have been really helpful to launch it with that knowledge.
Okay. Excellent. Yes. And so I guess you could most people, right? Canadians, Americans, and most countries do not teach finances properly, right? So that's a gap for sure. But so would you say that getting a mentor sooner for how to scale and exit and plan your business would have been
Yeah. So what I actually, so I had a really good advisor the day that I started the company, and he helped me through how to raise money and, some of the terminologies and things like that. But
okay?
what was really life-changing for me in the business was a little over a year ago, one of my friends, he was a CFO at a company I had been at before, introduced me to a banker. And I now have this relationship with this banker. Of course, we're not selling the company today, but I would have liked to have had that relationship with that banker on day one also, or someone like him, because he's the one that really is like, we have conversations and they're very motivating and exciting. And he's teaching me,
Okay.
I'm also teaching him. Like, it's a very like nice, symbiotic, helping each other along, but he's making sure that I'm positioning myself
Okay.
a good exit someday.
Okay. And is that sort of are you is this your baby? Do you want to grow this into a legacy company, or are you open to an equity event or two?
There'll be for sure there'll be an equity event. I think that unless I'm much more brilliant than I think I am, the best way to grow the company will be for it to have a new parent.
Okay.
And
Okay.
not really work for them. But I
Right.
think that with a company like this, where there's so much technology involved and it's going to require so much infrastructure to grow it to
Right.
the point where I see it happening,
Okay.
yeah, there will be an equity event.
Okay. Excellent. And do you start finding them, or do they start finding you? How does that courtship go?
It's both ways. It's both
Okay.
ways. I've had
That
people
sounds
reach out.
romantic when you phrase it.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
actually a really good way to describe it. I'm always looking for who could potentially be the
A
acquirer.
good partner.
Yeah.
Okay.
because they would be a partner and they would be the new parent, or they like, where would this technology and this offering and this type of team sit in the best, most productive way? Like, what house would that look like?
Right.
So it could be as big as an Apple, or it could be a smaller like corporation that it could be like in healthcare, and it could be a mental health company that already exists and then they bring it in. There's like tons of options, but
Right.
just have to continually play the field and keep dating until I find the right one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Very cool. Very cool. That's exciting. I'm
Yeah.
excited for you.
It's very exciting.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today and sharing some insights and tips with us on your industry. If people would like to connect with you, what should they do?
The best thing to do is, if you're on LinkedIn, is to find me there and connect with me on LinkedIn, because I'm very active there and it's easy to find me. You can also go to bezyl.com, bezyl.com, and send me a message there as well. But those two places are the best.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you everybody for listening and watching. Thank you very much, Esther Howard, for joining me today. We appreciate you sharing your story of insights into success and impact. Thank you very much.
Inspired by our guests? Visit phoenixprosperitypodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.